Did you get anything from Brian on the handicap accessibility?
I'll only in words, not in writing.
You didn't get it either, right?
Right. As of today.
We'd love to make that happen.
I don't see Cynthia Zuniga here, so
But
I'll put that over there.
I'll fill you in.
Yeah, on the original, on the one on the internet, it said that it was for Rich Steffens' temporary certificate, but then it said that it was 71 Main Street, and I'm going, wait a minute, Rich doesn't have anything to do with 71 Main Street.
Are we ready, Christine?
Yes.
Oh, okay, great. Great. Welcome to the Village of New Paltz Planning Board. Last meeting of 2015. It's December 15th. And thank you all for coming. We have a fairly short agenda, hopefully brief. We have PB 1502, the Goodwill Evangelical Church. We have a request for a temporary C of O for an unfinished site plan, PB 1505, a couple of zoning items, and then a little bit of administrative business. We have, under administrative business, apparently we have an extra set of minutes to approve, right, Christina?
That's correct.
October the 6th. So I'd like to add that to the agenda for approval. And I would also like to ask the board if we could go into a brief executive session to discuss possible employment of consultants. So those are the.
Add NBR mixed-use zoning as well to your zoning items?
Yes, and I want to, well, that's actually going to be under the next meeting item. So, thanks. So with those amendments, is this agenda okay with everybody?
Yep.
All right. So, gentlemen, please come up. How are you all?
Good, thanks, Michael.
Nice seeing you all again.
Yep. I hope this is a pleasant time of year for you guys.
Busy time of year.
Good, I bet it
That
is.
season, yeah.
Might get a little snow this weekend, maybe.
Really?
I don't know, and then it's supposed to melt.
Going from 60 to snow, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Planning or predicting? Planning or predicting?
I'm just repeating, parroting what I heard. Okay, so at our last meeting, we had a couple of outstanding items. Two really. One was the modification to the site plan and the easement to indicate that you were not going to be entitled to all of the parking spaces in your neighboring lot. And based on our research and yours, you've modified the easement so that you're setting aside 4 spaces, right?
Correct.
You may well have the opportunity to use more. In terms of shared parking, the business that's there is not open on Sundays, right? So, and the easement reflects that. We have the latest version in your site plan, so we're good there. The only comment that our attorney asked was if the site plan could actually specify, so the way I understand it is the easement specifies the actual spaces, stalls 1 through 4.
Yes.
And the plan indicates those. So our attorney asked if you could actually consider something like signage that's currently up there. There's signs for Barnaby's only, and put those in those locations. And in order to do that and assist you all tonight, what I'd like to suggest is that we take the version of the site plan that Christina has, and you can make those modifications in pen, and you and I will initial them, and then that will be the plan that will be
Officially.
that I'll sign later on, and then that's what'll be in the street file for you, so that anytime in the future they'll know that those are the spaces, and presumably you'll take down the other signs, the Barnaby signs.
Yes.
Okay. The other item is the ADA accessibility to the second floor. My understanding as of today is that we had not heard anything official from the Department of State's representative. The last thing that I heard orally from our building inspector was that he had spoken with her today, and that she was leaning towards granting you what you wanted, which is not requiring an elevator or some kind of mechanism like that. But we haven't gotten anything in writing. So the resolution reflects, the resolution that we'll consider tonight for your application reflects that we need a decision on that. Those are the only items I'm aware of. Let me go around the table and see. Liz, do you have any
Nope.
issues further? John? No?
And no indication of timeline on the resolution of the question.
A couple of weeks ago? Yeah.
Weeks ago.
I don't know.
Can we reverse time?
Yeah. No,
Okay.
I'm sure that you all and our building inspector will continue to be in touch with her.
We've been continuing to call her often.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because it really leaves you in limbo until,
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah. So the proposal I'd like to make is that we have a conditional approval, we have a resolution tonight prepared by our attorney, and it lays out the entire timeline since you all have been in front of us, which is April or May of this year, off and on. And indicates that you've also gone to the Historic Preservation Commission in the village, you've gotten the necessary approvals from them, all of the signage details have been worked out, the lighting details have been worked out, all of the issues related to us have, and so it says, therefore, it is hereby resolved by the Village of New Paltz Planning Board that, one, the application of Goodwill Evangelical Presbyterian Church for site plan for a change of use at 16 North Chestnut Street, Village of New Paltz, in the B2 district, from an existing restaurant used to a house of worship as shown in a site plan prepared by MAD Engineering, PC, dated 7/30/15 and last revised
tonight.
Tonight,
Soon to be
yeah.
revised tonight.
Revised tonight, 12/15/2015, with internal layout by Mobile Media Incorporated, dated 2/27/15, last revised,
It's on the actual number, sorry.
okay, as noted on the plan, is hereby approved on the following conditions. A, submission of a determination by an appropriate New York State Department of State official that the second floor does not have to be handicapped accessible. B, revision of the site plan to indicate by signage the 4 spaces at 18 North Chestnut Street reserved for Goodwill Church on Sundays. So we'll do that this evening. Submission of proof of recording by the Ulster County Clerk of the easement for the spaces on the property at 18 North Chestnut, and payment of all fees in escrow. The chair of the planning board then is hereby authorized to sign the site plan upon satisfaction of said conditions. So that's the resolution.
So moved.
Oh, you got me.
And is that clause on B, there was one last
Oh,
clause on B?
sorry, I missed that. So related to the parking spaces, it indicates that one should be universally accessible.
There is one handicap accessible parking spot now.
All right, so you want to, I don't think that's one of the 4 listed, so let's,
No, that's being shared between the 2 parking spots.
okay, all right. So is there somebody in the building that you know of who requires that on a regular basis?
Not to our knowledge. No.
Okay, so then let's just indicate on the plan that that will be,
That'll be one of the 4.
we'll make that one of the 4, sure.
The way it's shown on the plan is that there's the standard universal design layout with the 4-foot width to be able to get out of a car and the signage. And,
Yeah.
so there's 2 stalls, which presumably one for each use. So if you designate one of those stalls,
Yeah.
that's it.
That would be fine.
So there'll be a stall for each building, is that what you
I
think?
think that's the supply that's shown on the site plan.
Okay, oh, yeah, that's, I think you're right. Okay, so with that addition, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Any second?
One moment,
Question.
please, yes. So it's showing one,
Does show one.
Just one.
I was thinking it showed two.
Well, that would be,
By code, it's only required to have
Yeah.
one for the quantity of parking spaces.
yeah, no, but he said there were
Parking lot.
two, but there's not
Should there
two.
be one for each use?
No, I said let's go with one
One
for,
for the-
shared for both.
no, I think one shared is
Yeah.
probably
shared?
fine,
Yeah.
given the,
It's based on the parking lot, not on the use, not on the buildings that are there.
right,
Yeah,
okay.
But it can't be designated for the one building.
Right.
It's gotta be
That's why
shared.
we kind
Right.
of left that as not one before, to be honest with you, because that would be then serving it without that, because then we use it both buildings.
got it.
And right now, the easement, I think, is written 1 through 4, which is not
Right.
one of the parking spots that's not the parking.
So
space.
if we continue to allow you to use
Oh,
1
it's
through
available.
4,
Easement agreement.
It could be understood.
do you have congregants who would typically need that space at this point?
Not at this point.
Okay.
On the second floor.
So, I mean, no, of course. I mean, I think we should leave it as is. The easement indicates the numbered spaces which are on the site plan. I'd like to modify the version of the plan as we noted so that the signage is noted on there to match those 4 spaces. And then if you can, I'm not quite sure how to indicate your use of this space. I mean,
We can hand modify again this evening if you want something.
that space can be shared
It could be a
between.
shared space.
Okay. And then we might want to annotate the easement as well to indicate that.
I believe right now we have still have the draft version, we don't have the execute, because we thought there might be a change.
Okay, so we'll
when
do
we
that.
execute finally, we can make
Okay.
that modification to easement.
So is that acceptable to everybody?
Yes.
But it that way.
Liz, is that all right? Okay.
Yes.
So with those oral adjustments that we'll memorialize in a bit, we have a motion, we have a second. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye? All right, so,
Done.
good, so.
You're almost,
Thank you.
almost.
Done. So, Christina, if you
99%.
could give me the copy of the site plan.
And the resolution as well?
The resolution I can sign later, but I want to give Andy a chance to mark that up. And while you all are doing that, we can move on to PB 1505. You can stay here if you want, it's fine.
I have to recuse myself.
Okay, so Rich is going to recuse himself.
How far do I have to move?
Stand in the corner.
Over there. Next to the chair there. Yeah, exactly.
Do we have the site plan, Christina, for this? Okay, so what we have is a temporary certificate of occupancy request for 58 Elking Avenue, which is the residence of one Rich Stephenson family. So we have an approved site plan, and which is here for everybody to look at. The house is complete.
99%.
99% complete. The driveway is in.
Yep,
Most of the landscaping is in.
most of the land.
But the garage, which is in the rear, as indicated by those boxes in the back of the plan, or the top of the plan, has not yet been built. And Rich would like to move in. And so in order to do that, we have to consider authorizing the building inspector to grant a temporary certificate of occupancy because the site plan that we approved includes all of the completed landscaping and garage, as well as all the other things on the site plan. And we could, if we choose to do so, grant a temporary C of O for up to 12 months.
Up to 12 months?
Yes,
You said-
that's the building inspector's understanding. So there's the-
Questions, Mike?
Sure, go ahead.
Just my
newness to the role, is the precedent for this type of circumstance, which is very similar to this, where there's a residence complete and a parking or other element of the site plan incomplete, and we've issued this length of time.
No, because the planning board hasn't typically had to review new construction for single-family homes before.
Right.
This is actually the first new construction we've had to do.
Right.
But we did this year do a similar thing for a commercial building that was undergoing renovations from one business to two, and they asked for a temporary C of O while they finished up certain things. We did grant that they ultimately didn't need it, but, so that would be the closest thing to we have to a precedent for this. The building inspector is fine with this. The conditions that are outstanding are the garage is the main thing. There's a limited amount of landscaping that's still required in the front of the building. And you had raised an issue. Did you talk to Brian?
Speaking with you today was I did go view the site, and it's my recommendation to specify a paved apron at the head of the driveway, maybe something like just 5 feet in, but I was looking at the way that the gravel meets the road and just thought that it could be, provide for not tracking sediment out into the street on the gravel driveway, and I think it would provide a transition between the street and the driveway.
So that would be
Alternate site plan.
that would be a modification to the site plan, which I'm not prepared to deal with tonight. That's something that could be discussed with the building inspector at a later time. But I think we would, in terms of the things, the building inspector specifically said that it's on the current plan, or the landscaping, the final landscaping, and the garage is the main item. So,
Okay.
you done? Any questions from you guys? Are we done here? Absolutely. Yeah, thank you for doing that.
Appreciate it.
All right, so you'll finalize the easement, and pass that down to Christina, and so we should be all set. Thank you. Hopefully, Department of State.
Seal.
Thank you guys.
You guys have been great, by the way.
Yeah.
I just want to say,
Took a long time, sorry.
yeah, and appreciate your patience.
Absolutely.
Through this.
Thank you so much.
And best of luck.
Thanks. Good luck.
Thanks.
Happy holidays to you.
Thanks. Okay, so would somebody like to make a motion
Thank you.
related to PB 1505?
So the motion would be to approve temporary certificate of occupancy,
To authorize the building inspector to
authorize the building inspector to
issue
issue a temporary certificate of occupancy
for no more than 12 months.
no more than 12 months. Okay, yeah, so.
Well, I hesitate to do 12 months, because then if we get to like the 11th month, then what happens if it's November or December and there's crappy weather, then he would have to have an extension.
If I'd known December was gonna be this good, there'd be a garage there.
Yeah, I'm not worried about that.
Okay.
But it's okay. We know.
I mean, basically, it's putting the concrete in that it takes to put the garage in.
Yeah.
And just, at the time, I canceled it because it was
Yeah.
near December,
Which is often cold. We
often
know.
snowy.
So, okay, so we have a motion to authorize the building inspector to grant temporary CVO for 58 Elting Avenue for no more than 12 months. Is there a second?
Second.
Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
And I've recused myself.
Okay, so you're back.
I'm back.
We're done. All right.
So does this go to? Back to?
Yeah, that goes back. That has to go back in the street file. All right, that's it for applications. So we have a couple of zoning items. Dave, 21223.
One thing, let's see, 21223 is the long, do I dare say, torturous, the process with 21223 that goes back to maybe even before May, there were standards proposed within site plan submission and review standards, including more recently around July with submission standards, 2 sets of drafts. Recently, the zoning board also indicated interest in having some modifications to 21223 A and B that can clarify submission standards and performance standards for projects reviewed by them. So the proposal, the mayor was at the last zoning board workshop, I believe it was last week, was to form a committee with members of planning board, village board, zoning board, and staff to further those changes and integrate them within 21223. So,
So we're asking for
The-
volunteers.
and you'll be looking for volunteers, and the topic was abated at the level as it had gotten to the village board. Because
Right.
there's a proposal currently before village board, and that's in
Right.
abeyance.
Okay.
Based on this continuing, I guess, additional process.
So,
Can I nominate a volunteer?
sure, you can nominate one.
I think that our resident engineer here
Yep.
would be the best person because that resident engineer can understand it and then boil it down into layman's language, which we can understand.
Okay.
Can
You have a nomination on the
identify
floor.
resident engineer? And if I sit too close and she didn't want to, I'll be on the floor.
You're okay with that?
Yeah.
All right, is there anybody else? I'm hoping this will be 1, maybe 2 meetings, and then we'll be done. Yeah, exactly. Is there somebody else who would like to do this, is willing to do this?
Do you have to be open-minded?
No requirements, no comment. You're more than welcome to, Bill, if you like. It will probably be a daytime meeting, I'm guessing shortly after the first of the year. It seemed reasonable. So,
Who will be coordinating the scheduling of that?
either Dave or the mayor,
Okay.
so. You're volunteering for us?
No, I am not.
No,
I
then you
can't-
should put your hand
I
up.
can't volunteer, but I do want to call attention to the fact that there are 2 zoning board members on this group.
Yes.
I think it would be useful if there were 2.
Oh, yeah, no, I'm trying to get 2. I'm trying to make one of them not me.
I'm trying.
Oh, Bill, okay.
I'm trying to be helpful.
Yeah, all right, so we have.
I know if I stared at him long enough, he'd do
We
it.
have 2 members. All right, thank you. All right,
Thanks, Bill.
all right, great. So you want a quick update on the MS4?
Yeah, so MS4, as you know, we've been working through adoption of compliant stormwater law, and I presented to you standards within site plan review and subdivision, and it was recommended that there be a meeting on what's been developed to date and prescriptions for that law with the meeting with the village engineer. That happened 2 weeks ago. Chairperson Zierler also attended. There seemed to be no substantial comments. An example from Cheyenne Guns Law was provided. I might add that we hope to have the report, the next steps memo that is, from the EPA-funded Coastal Communities Resiliency Workshop and community meeting from September. I did get a preview of the document, and it has a lot of recommendations for stormwater management, consistent really with your stormwater program and your notice of intent and annual report, but also going forward to promote flood resiliency, and I think it'll be a good tool for use as well. And
Great.
it's on my my table to make a prescription for enforcement and fees and some other inspection and monitoring standards, and I still hope to have those to you in early January or so.
Great, thank you, Dave. Okay, so we have a few administrative items, 2 sets of minutes to approve. First, the minutes from our last meeting, 12/1/2015. We all good with them? Just a quick look through. Yes, sir.
There's a October 6th date on the header of this.
So that would be a separate.
That's a second
That's a
set of
second
meetings.
set. We're gonna do those two.
So then the one that you're referring to is 12.
12/1. That's okay.
All right.
Do you have them handy?
Yeah, no, I do. It was
Okay.
the one I was expecting, only that my name is spelled wrong on the resolution, which I'm beginning
We'll
to.
we'll fix that in the future. It took several months before my name was spelled right. It's kind of an initiation thing.
It took a while until Maurice reminded me I was doing his.
You know what? It was the resolution that George had proposed for the new project, for the
Goodwill Church.
Oh, okay.
So not in the minutes, so
Okay.
no comment on the minutes.
All right. So, motion to approve the minutes of December 1st, 2015.
So moved.
Second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
And the second set of minutes is October 6th, which for some reason we never actually approved. That included the presentation by the Lawler Group.
Oh,
So
wow.
they're very long minutes. They were prepared by the village clerk, who was sitting in as our secretary in that evening.
Just so I'm on board with what you just did was the first?
Well, yeah, just 12/1.
And what about January 5th? Did you say that's on?
Well, we don't have minutes for that yet.
Okay, right.
Time traveling all over the place tonight, aren't we?
That's a need.
No, I know. No, we'll get to that in a second.
And the October 6th was just figured out that it hadn't been adopted, right?
Apparently, some staff in the clerk's office contacted Christina.
She typed the whole meeting.
Pretty much, yeah. It's a good read, but don't do it now.
Oh, okay.
So, if it's okay, a motion to approve the minutes of October 6th. Otherwise, if you want to read it all, we'll delay it. Okay. Motion to approve the minutes of October 6th, 2015. So moved. And a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, great. Okay, now for the fun stuff.
But don't read them.
First, I brought you guys some dessert. Wow! An assortment of cookies.
We're being plied with sugar.
Does this constitute official bribery?
Constitutes.
Pulling out all the stuff.
He wants something.
But he already got the other one.
No, it's not on the agenda. Surprises are more fun when they're not. Oh no, we don't have a bottle opener. Somebody must have one.
Is it a twist off?
It's a bottle of.
No, it's.
I'm ashamed to say I'm good at using a key to open something. Never done it.
It's kind of bubbly and not cold, so be careful.
And what fraternity were you, may I ask?
Neither, no. That wasn't my crowd.
So there's an assortment of cookies here. If you don't want, they're all large, and if you want to share, we'll have to break them up. So help yourselves. They're all from the tea room. Happy to make a shameless plug.
You know, I've
One of
never
our
been.
local businesses.
What's the new place, Huckleberry?
I don't know. I think people are saying pretty good things.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Anyway, we're actually still in.
Oh, we're still in meeting.
We're still in meeting. Thank you. Wow, you're good at that.
Wow.
You're saying yummy, so, okay.
Help yourselves. Does sparkling cider, anybody? Sure. Yeah.
It's terrible when you're diabetic at Christmas time.
Did you get
know what I
some?
mean?
Okay.
Want a cookie?
So, I want to discuss what's coming up. So, January 5th, do we have any new applications?
No, we do not.
Okay. So then, at this point, the only thing that I necessarily am certain that we'll see on the 5th is, if any of you out there in TV land would like some cider, help yourselves. The only thing that I know for certain will be the Pencil Hill application, PB 1408. We are expecting a limited report from our engineer, Dave Klauser, about the stormwater issues related to the project. Limited in the sense that he's going to basically look at the plan and the drainage report that was presented and come up with a list of questions, comments, and deficiencies. And on that basis, then there'll be a discussion between engineers about that. What I think is really important for this project, and I'd like to propose, is that we actually do a site visit. And I've talked to the applicant, he's happy to do it. We need to schedule it as a special meeting. It's open to the public. We would obviously have to do it during the day, however, otherwise it would be less useful. So he is flexible, but I'm wondering if you all would, if it was possible to do it before January 5th, that would be great. But if not, then we should try to schedule it at a reasonable time soon after that.
Michael,
Yes,
it would be good to do it early because of the snow.
I know. Yeah, no,
Give it a sign.
the sooner the better. But I realize the holidays are coming up and might not be practical to do it until after the 1st.
My flexibility is way better from now till the holiday than after the holiday.
It is, okay, because you'll be,
Yeah, my schedule's flexible from now until the 1st, and then after the 1st, it's not.
so, okay, are you?
Yeah, I'm pretty flexible.
Yeah, and you're pretty flexible. And, okay, and if we do it during a work day, then we'll have staff along as well. Would you, Christina, would you be able to join us? Okay.
Sure.
So today's the 15th. Would you want to try to do this next week, like the Monday or Tuesday, the 21st or 22nd?
Sure.
Yeah?
Okay with me.
Is either day okay? So I can.
22nd is better for me,
22nd is better. All right.
Tuesday.
Early.
Tell me what early means, because I know you.
Before 2.
Oh,
Oh, that's fine. I thought you were gonna say like 5:30.
No, first half of the day.
Okay, so, morning site visit at Pencil Hill, let's say 11. Is that, Dave, do you know if you're,
And that was Monday?
that's, no, Tuesday, a week from tonight.
Tuesday at 11.
Tuesday, 11
I can run
a.m.
and look at my work
Yeah.
physical calendar, but I don't think that's a problem.
Okay.
And the other thing is, we're doing it quickly, taking advantage of the weather, but I don't know if you want to have the applicant stake out anything or flag anything to show you where it is, but
Yeah.
obviously if we're hurrying, that
He
might
should
not
have time
be
to do it. He says he's up here a fair bit. Yeah, no, I think it would be good if he could paint some boundaries of things and approximate where the driveway is and such. Okay, so what we need to do then is you'll need to notice this in a paper, that there'll be a special planning board meeting. Is it too late to get it into the New Paltz Times? It would have to be tomorrow's paper, right?
Oh, yeah, probably would be, and that's probably being put to bed in a few hours.
Yeah.
It could go in the Freeman, the Daily Freeman. perhaps.
All right, well, why don't we do that? If it could be a box associated with anything you might write for tonight, or do you get something in tonight for
No, I will not have anything in,
for this
week's.
paper? Okay,
Yeah.
so then, no point. All right, so yeah, so put it in the daily and indicate that there'll be, and also post it in Village Hall, you know, like in the hallway out here or on the building department door or something like that, so that people know, and also on the website. So we'll do that. We'll have a site visit at the Pencil Hill property at 11 a.m. on Tuesday, December 22nd. And I will confirm that. Before you go and do all that, let me confirm with the applicant, because it'd be good if he was there. So other than that, we don't actually have anything else for certain on our January 5th meeting. Open applications that we might see, we probably won't see then, and other business is coming up later in January, but that's it. So it might be a really short meeting, so that's the way it goes.
Michael, we were planning to go to the executive session at this point.
No, actually, I want to discuss escrow policy. This is an item that I'd like to do in public. You guys could pass these over and give one to Dave. 3. Pass those down. Tom, if you'd like one of these, pass one of those to Bill.
Thank you.
Yeah, Terrence, you can have mine at the end of this. I apologize, I think I'm one short. So, what I have given you all is a table I just made up recently that is based on the invoices that we have received and paid for legal expenses for 2015 that are not out of the planning board line. They're all out of escrow accounts. And broken it up into 5 general categories: residential minor, larger residential projects, non-residential or commercial projects that are minor, and similarly non-residential ones that are moderate in size, and subdivisions. We had 20 applications this year, that a number of which were pre-applications, and so they didn't have any fees, and they don't fall under this table. So you can see the breakdown in terms of what charges there were for legal fees to these various categories, and the total was about $8,600. I anticipate there'll probably be another $400 or $500 coming in for work done to be charged under escrow for stuff that was done for this meeting. And we'll see how we handle that, but in any event, we can round this up to roughly 9,000. Okay, so the reason that I want to discuss this is that I'd like to have a conversation about changing this policy. We currently are paying a retainer on legal fees. We're currently paying a retainer for legal counsel, and that amounts to $4,000 a year, or about $330 a month, which averages out to about an hour and a half or an hour and 3/4 of time per month. And we know we're getting more than that but a lot of it is being charged to applicants, and I particularly am troubled by the first column, in which minor applications for residential changes, such as adding a mudroom or making modifications to your home, such as putting on a second-story addition, that previously did not come to us, are costing applicants anywhere from $300 to almost $500 or $450. Some of the commercial projects that we saw that I would classify as pretty minor, such as the one on the corner of Plattekill and Main Street. It was largely just signage and lighting, cost over $1,000. And part of the reason is that the retainer is very small, and so the attorney in his office, his staff, are not really, it's not easy for them to sort of parse out the amount of time that they spend. So if they get a call from the building inspector for clarification on how to classify something, it gets charged to an applicant, and I am not comfortable with that. So, sort of like to hear how you all feel, and I will tell you that I met with the attorney a little over a week ago, and we had a very fruitful and very pleasant conversation. I mean, I think he's great. I really like the services they provide, and he's perfectly happy to revise this. So, but first, before we tell you more about that, if you guys have any responses or thoughts, let's just shout them out. So.
Can we offer him a larger retainer and charge the applicants less?
Probably. That is part of what he and I discussed. And so, certainly a possibility. I can tell you more in a moment. What do you think?
Can some of this, the minor applications be scaled in such a way where it's less per hour for his work on these sorts of things? Or is it, can we package it as a group buy for a year, like 20, 30 minor projects over the course of time for X amount of dollars?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if we can it's possible. I mean, yeah, it's possible.
Just thinking out loud.
Yeah, right. Any thoughts?
I mean, real estate has a major effect in the village.
Right.
One, addressing the quality of life, and how it affects it. But two, it is really our only source of income. The taxes on it.
Right. Fair enough.
So, promoting the highest and best use of real estate is in the best interest of the village.
Right.
That's what we're supposed to be doing here as a planning board.
Okay.
So I think that, having the services of the attorney available to us is key. And, I remember going through this with Maurice. Is key to protect both of those, the quality of life and to promote the business of the village. I don't necessarily think that charging it off on a client basis has anything to do with it. It's our interests that are being protected. It's our interests that are being talked about. What does it have to do with the specific customer paying for it?
Okay.
So I've sat on that side of the table. I've paid those fees. Nobody likes to pay fees, but I don't think those are fees of that side of the table. I think those fees are this side of the table. It's our attorney. It's our information. To have have them paid for by an open checkbook virtually. I don't think that's fair to the people sitting on that side of the table.
Okay.
If we want to come up with a fee structure that's fair, it wouldn't be an open checkbook. Instead, what we've got here is an open checkbook situation.
Right. Which
I'd rather we just had an attorney that worked for us and only us. It gets, you know, in my business as a real estate broker, it gets crazy when you try to represent two sides of a table. We're trying to decide who's paying you. I mean, when that legal bill comes in, who paid it? Well, they paid it, but it was for our information.
So,
It puts two hats on his head.
but if you have, suppose you have a large project,
Mhm.
let's pick one that's built, like Woodland Pond, that took years and went through a full seeker process.
Yep.
Would you still stand by what you said?
I think a project like Woodland Ponds is in the best interest of the village. One, for quality of life, and two, for income.
And so you would say that,
I would say that we should have an attorney working for us to make sure that project gets done properly, that the environment's protected, and that our income is
but
protected.
there's no way that you could come up with a retainer that would be palatable to taxpayers, that would cover a project of that size.
Sorry to interject, Michael, but could you give me an idea of the magnitude of what you thought the legal expense was for a project of that size?
Wow.
10 grand.
Yeah, I would say on the order of at least 10 or more thousands of dollars. If that project went on for several years, there was a lawsuit, independent of the lawsuit, because that actually involved other attorneys. So,
Rich, are you saying that we should be responsible for paying part of it?
I think we should have a
Outside.
full-time attorney that works for us.
and not charge any escrow.
And not charge them at all?
We can charge an application fee across the board.
Yeah.
But no, I don't see it being an open checkbook across the board.
So we should have a particular sum of money that we pay him, or we pay him an hourly rate to work for us, which is not influenced or connected to what the applicant pays.
That's right.
And then the applicant would have a fee schedule perhaps based upon what they're asking.
Well, by looking at this, maybe all commercial applications should be $1,000. Not $100 plus an open checkbook on legal fees.
Okay.
Put the cost right up front.
Right. That's an interesting thought.
I just have a problem with it being subject to, you know, I mean, Michael, even when you were explaining that before, how do you justify, and believe me, I'm one of George's biggest fans, how do you justify someone working for us for $3,000 a year? Is that what we pay them?
4,000.
$4,000?
Yeah.
What kind of services are we going to get for a full-time attorney for $4,000 a
I
year?
know, well right, we don't.
I mean, it's even even have them come here at night. It's almost got to be, let's hope we get a couple of clients show up so that we can afford to
Well,
pay George.
yeah.
Because it can be worth it to come for that.
Tom?
Michael, you, or Rich, you've been on the planning board perhaps the longest of this group, but Michael was
Yeah.
on here before. And you'll recall that we had a higher retainer.
Yep.
We retained George and then before him other attorneys for more hours. I don't know, and probably not at a different rate, but for more hours. We still had escrow issues though, because beyond the kinds of consultation that the board needs, there are standard kinds of things that need to be looked at. And the same would be true of the engineer. Sometimes you are required to call on an engineer.
Right.
Are you suggesting that that is another professional service that you need to have always at your, at some point, the village board is gonna say, wait a minute.
No, I know.
Yeah.
Enough is enough. So if there were some combination of reasonable fees and a request for an additional amount for retainer that could be historically justified, I think you might have a better chance of having a favorable review of that.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Tom, I just have a problem with the open checkbook
That's
concept.
it.
I just don't think that's,
I think there's agreement at this table on that, based on conversations we've had.
So a historical question would be if there was a larger escrow, more than 2 times what is currently being
Escrow or
paid.
retainer?
Yeah, retainer.
Excuse me, retainer.
Okay.
And you said there were still charges made to the escrow account. Is it possible that the retainer becomes sort of this sunk cost that everybody sort of puts aside and still allows billing into the escrow? So we're at risk of, if we increase the retainer and think of it as sort of a global charge that's going to encompass all the necessary fees that, you know, a customer, as you said, Rich, would bring to the board, we would, if we weren't carefully managing what was being taken care of as a result of that retainer, we would still have charges overcharging to the escrow. In other words, is the former process reflective of the fact that there wasn't scrutiny of what was being charged versus billed to the retainer? And if so, I want to make sure that if we increase the retainer, we're doing both. We're not increasing retainer and allowing the escrow charge. It's not an open checkbook, but even anything that we're agreeing should actually be encompassed by the retainer.
No, you make good points. You know?
I'm hesitant for the village via the planning board to foot the entire bill. To me, that doesn't seem right either. Because then I have visions of someone coming in and just using that for free legal advice, and that there has to be something that keeps it in check on this side of the table and on that side of the table. So
Yeah.
I still see the need for an escrow. And perhaps we might want to go to a set, and then if it goes above or below, ask for more or do a reimbursement, avoiding that open checkbook situation that Rich talks about. But I'm very hesitant to say, oh yeah, we'll go ahead and pay for everything. No.
Yeah, and I don't think that's a sellable point with the village board. So let me, I think I can address maybe holistically a number of these points. The conversation I had with George basically came down to what would most likely be some sort of hybrid system. An increase in the retainer, well, let me back up 1 second. I agree with exactly the points that Rich Sudo raises, and that Liz is bringing up, that this is altering the way in which we handle escrows, and the retainer is only one part of it. We have to be vigilant about how money gets spent, both for consultants, through a retainer process, and also through the escrow account. I mean, it's our responsibility, it's mine, but I'm asking all of you as planning board members to, you know, in most of the things that we do, to, you know, have my back on this as well, because I think more eyes are better. So that means that we understand, if we're going into an escrow, we understand what it is that we're allowing a consultant to do, what we expect of them, the product is clear, perhaps even the amount of time that they can spend on it, not to exceed, that sort of thing. So that it's not an open checkbook on any particular project. George said that he would prefer to have a larger retainer, not just because it's more money, but because in fact he feels he can provide better service. Because he's not stingy at all. He's very generous in what he wants to provide us. And I think it's important to add, he is very, very, very much likes this planning board and this community a lot. He feels very invested in it, and he cares a lot about it. So he wants to provide us, you know, the best service that he can as an attorney, but also because he really likes Newcoats. And so if, for instance, we offer him something like $10,000, which is a number he put out, he feels that many of the things that we're getting charged to escrow accounts, such as a conversation with the building inspector, whoops, you guys are all done? We need some signatures. Okay, do that quickly.
These guys need to be signed?
Okay, here you go, man. Thank you. All right, have a nice holiday.
You too.
Yeah, for now. Anyway, his point is that I think, especially if we also prepare an agreement with the attorneys, that's very clear about the things that are going to be covered under the retainer. But part of the problem now is nobody is certain what we're actually getting for the retainer, and I think I'm not afraid to say that publicly. I think that the attorney, to a certain extent, would have a hard time itemizing exactly what that is for the hour and 2/3 each month. So, meeting memos, I would hope, resolutions and things of that sort that are kind of standard material, that we could get that covered under the retainer. We would need to flesh out those details, but that's what I would hope. And so that for many small projects like minor residential projects, there should be virtually no fee to the applicant other than the public hearing notice. That is a $30 fee that goes to the paper. And for larger projects that require more substantial work, that you can't always predict exactly what it would be, but by virtue of its size or its controversial nature, its complexity is likely to require more substantial legal review, we can set up an escrow account. So we can argue about the particulars. Do we always want to have an escrow up front when an application is filed, or do we want to wait until we begin the process of conversation with them, knowing that the initial analysis by our attorney will be covered under the retainer, for the first meeting. Unless they say this project's way too big, you need a retainer before I can put in the 5 hours I need to put in, or something like that. So maybe we can be a little flexible or nimble about this as well.
They ask, has there been research done on how other villages are handling this very same matter, since it's necessary to have a planning board every place in the state?
Yeah, it's a good question. I only have one example of a neighboring town who primarily uses a planner instead of an attorney or an engineer. And my sense is that they, let's see what my notes say. They have a planning consultant who seems to do most of this. They do not generally use escrows, so I presume that the consultant is paid. But I didn't inquire about the dollar amounts, and I have certainly something we could do. So you had made a good suggestion about sort of trying to use the end of the calendar year as kind of a good point to sort of try to shift the way we do this. And I think for the most part, we're largely paid up. And possibly, maybe we're completely paid up. But you all don't meet again until, I know you meet.
We have a special meeting.
Yeah, but we're not going to,
No.
this won't come up
After
there.
that, that'll be the last meeting of the month.
And then you'll meet again in January.
Correct. Right after you guys meet.
Okay. So, and we don't have a lot coming up the first meeting in January, but we will start to have some things starting with the second meeting in January. I think we'll have some bigger things other than the Pencil Hill project, which is ongoing. So based on all of this, would you guys like to make does it make sense? Are we in agreement that we might that we'd like to send a note to the village board asking them to consider a higher retainer for our attorney and come up with a dollar amount that seems sensible, with the understanding that in the meantime, we'll draw up an agreement with the attorney's office that you all can review that would indicate what services we're actually getting for that amount.
I absolutely think we need more than an hour and 3/4 attorney time per month.
Right. And
I absolutely believe that.
If I wasn't clear, let me say, my point was that with a larger amount, what George made clear was that he doesn't have to constantly be watching the clock. He will provide the services that are agreed to and likely more, because he knows that there's a certain amount that he can get. He can count on that. That's kind of the point of a retainer.
This is regardless of a person like George. Let's just talk about cost per hour and how
Sure.
many hours we need.
Yeah, of course.
Because George is a great guy, I don't think he would ever, so, that's,
Good.
it's not to say the next guy who does is magnanimous.
Yeah,
If we're paying $330 a month, we're getting an hour and a half of lawyer time a month.
yep.
Now, if you add that to all the salaries that we're withdrawing sitting here,
Yeah, it's not a lot.
no,
Right.
not a lot of money. For something that's supposed to be protecting the quality of life and increasing, supporting our income. I think we need legal services a whole lot more than $3,000 or $4,000 a year.
Okay,
How about this? Why don't we, let's come up with a sum that we think would be good as a retainer. Why don't we look at a fee schedule for the most common things that come before the board? Set
Okay.
a fee schedule, and then also have a category for professional fees, so that if we do need to get an engineer in here, that's something that they would have to pay as well.
So you
But I think
develop-
engineers'
you
fees-
develop your fee schedule and, I don't remember when.
Yeah, we
was
did
it
one
August, and you have your,
right.
you revised your fee schedule and provided the categories for residential and non-residential for attorney and engineer.
Right, so we
So
do
that-
have something to work from. We can start with that document.
I think there's a need for escrows in that there are certain projects that are gonna need experts,
Yep.
and that's what, but legal is something that every application is known to need. So engineers, hydrologists, archaeologists, I don't know what other agists we're gonna need.
Traffic,
Yeah,
traffic
you know,
consultants. and-
all of those are gonna come under escrow. Because we don't know the specific project coming in. If it's gonna be something that's doing a big dig down in Huguenot Street, we may want somebody in there who's an archaeologist. And we may want the applicant to pay for it.
Okay.
But legal fees are different.
Yep.
Michael, if I
Yeah.
could add, it just sounds like, I agree with the idea of increasing the escrow and trying to see if that can be not all, but more substantially encompassing of what we end up charging. But
Okay.
is it possible just for the minutes for this point to indicate that we're gonna detail inclusions, exclusions, fee schedule, like there's some work to be done, I think, in advance of implementing such a process, and the process of review.
Yes.
So inclusions, exclusions, fee schedule, escrow schedule, process for review would be the, I think, a few hours of work for all of us to do together to get this done.
Yeah, and we could try to, given what we have for next meeting, we could certainly try to have that.
Because the risk is the opposite blank check, which
Yeah.
I'm trying to make sure doesn't happen either.
So, George proposed a $10,000 retainer. Based on what I'm seeing for escrow dollar amounts and, plus the $4,000 that he's currently getting, I'm totally comfortable making that proposal to the village board.
Okay?
No, it's not about.
Yeah, go ahead,
It's
Tom.
nothing to do with the math. It's just a caution that monies may not be available in the current budget
I understand.
year. So if you're asking for a change effective January 1st, that might be much more difficult to get than a change that's projected, unless we have money in the contingency fund that could be called on.
Yeah, no, I understand.
Yeah, but Tom, when we went to the $3,000 escrow, it was pretty clear understanding that if we needed more money for legal fees, they would be there. And you're telling me they're not?
I think you're right, Rich. Remember, this issue started not with the current
Right.
administration, but
Right.
with the
Former,
just
yeah.
prior administration. And the just prior mayor had particular objections to the amount of money that was kept in, or put into a retainer. So at one point, he was going to scotch the whole thing,
Yep,
so there would be no money for a retainer.
yep.
But that was not done.
So,
What we've got now is a compromise that doesn't have any historical basis, but we also have the current budget year,
right,
which
Uh-huh.
is a determining factor, at least with
Well-
some expenditures.
Fair enough. I mean, I'm still willing to put it out there
Sure.
for the months of January through May 31st, which would be the remainder of this year. We can calculate a prorated amount for that and ask for the, I mean, you're presumably, you would have as of now paid roughly 7/12
Yeah,
of your
7/12.
amount, and so we're asking for, a prorated amount. Yeah, so it's gonna be like another $4,000 or $5,000 for this year. So, I'm perfectly comfortable asking for that and providing the documentation you guys need to, why it's important. That is the background of this, but I think many things have changed since then. The administration has changed, the composition of this board has, and also our responsibilities have changed. We didn't used to look at
Correct.
1 and 2 family residential applications, and that and some of the minor commercial stuff, I think, is particularly what concerns me in handling it through the system we have now. And so I would like to change that. I think it's much more fair to the community, as Rich points out. And I think ultimately we'll get better service. And that is, as they say, priceless. So thank you, though. So I would like to make a motion that we authorize ourselves in some capacity to put together a memo that we'll submit to the village board or to the clerk with a request for an amount of money that would provide for a prorated annual $10,000 retainer, or annual $10,000 retainer to be prorated for 5 months starting from January 1st through May 31st, 2016.
Just a note, out of quick calculations, that's $833 a month, and we would be requesting $4,165.
We may not use it all. I mean, we have a very light agenda in
But it's a
January.
retainer, so it's a retainer, it's a retainer.
It's gonna get paid regardless?
Yeah, that's the nature of the retainer.
Yeah,
That's what we're
yeah.
intending.
That's what it does. We don't have,
Now
Okay,
he's
well,
rethinking
well-
it.
it's not, we're not saying, here's a pot of money.
But there will be months where he will
Right.
give us more services than the $833.
So it's 833.
Well, you just made me uncomfortable with it.
So it's 833 is the,
Yeah.
is the monthly fee?
Yeah.
Is the average, right?
Yeah, it's the average.
So I can
over
tell you
12
that,
months.
so roughly that's about 4.5 hours a month.
Right.
And based on what I've seen, that's a pretty solid number.
Yeah, I agree with that.
For the number of applications we've had this year and the amount of stuff that George has done that we would like him to continue to do, such as resolutions and memos and comments on things, that's a pretty good average. Every time I run the numbers, it's somewhere between 4 and 5 hours a month. So
With all he's done for us, I can't imagine he's held to a $200 clock.
he has not.
So,
So, Michael, this is not a requirement of addition to the motion, but a question. What do we think about that motion about the magnitude of the retainer being inclusive of inclusions, exclusions, fee schedule?
No, I think we should absolutely do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's make sure that's clear in the motion that says that there's a retainer on the table, but that retainer would come with some definition that we can come up with real quickly, I think, of inclusions, exclusions, fee schedule, and process.
Yeah, we'll put together a
Should all be in his contract. It shouldn't-
Yeah, it'll be an agreement or a contract with them that will specify
Great.
what should be covered under the retainer, what isn't covered under the retainer,
Great.
and
Great.
they're the legal guys, I'm sure they'll craft it.
Yeah. And the last question I had was there an idea that we would come up with a tiered level of escrow payment depending on the type of project that gets proposed to
Well,
the planning board?
Our
Or-
fee, the fee schedule that we proposed has that. already, so.
You
we
have
can-
an adopted policy.
Yeah, so we can use that policy
Yep.
document as a place to start. That's based on numbers that our engineer and our legal gave us. So we should start with that document. Do you have a copy of that handy, or you may not?
The fee schedule?
Yeah, that was before you started, so you may not.
It's not the
Yeah.
fee schedule.
No, it's not the fee-
schedule
right.
is the fees for various types of applications.
Right.
This is the escrow policy.
Right, it's an
I
escrow.
think it was August, and I'll make sure that
Okay, if you could-
that's circulated.
Thank you,
Great.
Dave. So we'll use that. So the motion I'd like to make then is to allow us to submit a letter or memo to the village board asking that the retainer for legal services for the planning board be increased to $833 a month, roughly.
Roughly.
And that the planning board will also provide a draft, either outline or document indicating what is to be covered and excluded from that retainer for services provided by our attorney. So, that's a motion.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any more discussion? Take your time.
Sorry.
No,
One
don't
addition.
apologize. Go ahead.
Process.
Yes.
Review, review of invoice and time used and things like that. Could that be included as an item within the recommended policy moving forward?
Well, we already
You
looked
said
at-
inclusions and exclusions, but how does the
You
review
mean
process work?
going forward?
Yep.
I would say.
Is it already in our?
I think that's our responsibility. I don't think that would be in.
We already look at invoices.
We're doing that, and I, based on my experience with you guys so far, I have a lot of faith in you. I don't see any reason why we can't continue doing what we're doing.
Okay.
It's kind of what got us to this point in the first place.
It's nothing new, that's great.
Yeah,
Thanks.
yeah, and I think, that's kind of an in-house item. That's our job.
I would feel more comfortable recommending this to the village board once we have more of a justification for that increase,
Okay,
other than we feel we might need more hours? Or is our justification this?
this is my justification, that I think
You felt
this.
enough?
I think this reflects the number of hours that they put in.
If that was the case, then applicants wouldn't have paid anything.
What do you mean?
Isn't this,
'Cause this
The
is
applicant's
plus-
paid?
Plus 4K.
This is plus $4,000 for the retainer.
right?
So I'm not sure what you mean, applicants wouldn't have paid anything. You mean if we were using the system we're proposing?
Yes.
Largely true. There would be some exceptions to that. There are some subdivision things that might, he might exclude subdivisions, lot line revisions maybe not, but more substantial subdivisions, and we had one at least,
Yep.
that might fall outside of this. And I don't think that the fee for that particular subdivision was unfair, really, actually. So,
It would be application fees and whatever fee schedule we come up with for exclusions from the retainer. So they'll still be,
I mean, my point is that we haven't had any really large projects. The church is probably the largest one we dealt with
No, but
this
we've
year.
got a two-family house coming up.
No, I
That
understand.
could cost a lot of legal time
Yes, it could,
for a two-family house.
and that kind of project would more likely have an escrow because, I'm not trying to categorize stuff. I mean, any project, okay, so the way I see it is that there are certain things that as you pointed out, legal is gonna fall, we're gonna need some kind of legal services for practically every
Right.
application. And so there are things that we can depend on. We get meeting memos that will no longer be parsed out and charged to applicants, which they currently are. There will be resolutions that, can largely be drafted for the most part with a, relatively straightforward, pretty quick. Most of them are a timeline of events.
Right.
And so those things would fall under the retainer, we would hope. And that would be what we would want to assert. His ability to come to meetings and, you know, he doesn't come to every meeting anymore, right? I stopped that, and I mean, I haven't heard any objections from you guys. If you disagree, you should speak up. But that, you know, that saves applicants money right there. So the idea is that we will expect a certain base level of legal services for every application under the retainer. And that would eliminate or reduce pretty much everything that's here.
Right.
But some of these would still require additional legal services because of the nature of the project. And that we have to do on a case-by-case basis.
I agree.
So that's, are you comfortable with that?
So, I was just trying to understand the justification for the increase is that we will now be absorbing some of these costs that were charged back to
That's,
applicants,
yes, because I don't.
which was my argument in the first place.
Yes.
That's right.
It is, and I.
The applicant shouldn't pay, we should pay.
And-
He's our attorney.
And
Right.
I'm generally agreeing with you, but like Liz is saying, I'm not agreeing with you in every case, that there are cases where legal.
Oh, no, I don't agree with myself in every case.
Okay, let's move on. So the question is, do we want to, you know, can we vote on this? We understand we may not actually get to this until January. It may not come to you at your first meeting, but let's just, can we agree that
Yes.
with a number and a process? Okay, so let's
Call
just do it
question.
as a motion.
We have the motion.
We have the motion, we have a second.
Second, yeah.
So.
In favor.
Aye. Hold on, you're just way too, you're ahead of me here. Any more discussion? Great. In addition to Rich, who else is in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great, okay. I did skip over one thing, because for January 5th, the NBR district, you all received a document that contains the latest code and a map of that district. We will definitely be seeing something this year, possibly as early as January, not the first meeting, but possibly the second meeting, pre-application or application for that district. So I would really like to have everybody read the NBR code for the January 5th meeting. Take a look at the map, look at the code, just try to become conversant in it, come with some questions. Dave is going to put together maybe some guide points, and we'll have a discussion at the meeting. Is that fair to say? Okay. Just so that we all sort of understand what's expected because this is a new district, it's going to be brand new stuff, and you know, the public will be interested, I presume. Since I live right behind it, I know from hearing my neighbors, they're going to be interested. So the more knowledgeable we are, the better.
I hesitate to raise this, but I was thinking as you were having the prior discussion about the NBR district as a new entity, and whether it would raise legal issues as well as other planning issues that might have ramifications for the issues that we were just discussing about having attorneys.
Yeah, the answer is yes,
Yes.
I think. Okay, and I just wanted to say one other thing to you all. I just want to say thank you to all of you for serving this year on the planning board, and giving me
Thank
the
you,
chance to chair it. It's really a pleasure working with everybody here.
Thanks for stepping into the breach.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was not a happy thing to have to do under the circumstances, but I'm very happy to serve, and it's really a pleasure working with everybody, staff, liaisons, and members. So, you know, we actually did a lot this year. I'll just give you a quick year report. We had 20 applications. 3 of them were subdivisions or lot line revisions, and we took care of all of those. We had 8 pre-applications. 5 of them we never saw again. They came, they went. whatever. And 3 of them I would classify as still open. And 2 of those I would actually be interested in knowing if anybody would like to follow up with them. One of them is the Lalo group. I don't know if you all would just like to wait and see if they reappear or what they have in mind, but if somebody would like to take.
You just approved the minutes from that meeting where you saw them. That was the
Yeah.
October
October 6th. Yeah. So
So certainly one thing I've been planning to do is to communicate with them, at least provide the minutes. And
So, I mean, we had talked early on about people being sort of a point person. I don't know if there's anybody who's interested in that project in particular, would like to sort of, in an official capacity, check in with them.
I'll check.
Okay. And then communicate with Dave. The other one is a smaller project, but important. Wayne Bradford came and spoke to us about a proposal for the property next to Bacchus and the pool hall. And we haven't heard from him again, but I think it would be a good idea for somebody to
Well,
check in
no,
with
that's not
him.
exactly, he has heard from our building inspector.
Okay, I'm not surprised.
Right.
And there's an appearance of work happening there.
Yeah.
Which I think is maybe why I heard from him.
Of what?
Yeah,
I'm sorry?
things being done without coming back to us. And so on and so on. So, would you rather leave it at that level?
Yeah, I
Okay.
think so at this point.
Okay,
So-
fair enough. The other things that we did this year, we had 8 site plans, and we have approved 7 of them as of today.
you said there were 3.
Oh, the third one is the 5 Mulberry, and, you know, I consider that open. It would be a request for a temporary C of O, but I don't know what's gonna happen with that property at this point. It's out of our hands for now. We've approved 7 of the site plans, and 1 was the 17 Church Street, which we dismissed as not needing a site plan approval. As of tonight, I guess, actually, a couple of temporary C of Os. So, pretty good year.
Pretty good year.
We're leaving very little open, which is good. So again, thank you all. Anything else from anybody? Otherwise, I'd like to ask that we go into a brief executive session. We're not going to take any actions tonight. Michael, you had 5 minutes?
You have to give a reason for it, Mike.
Yeah, you have to give a reason.
Oh, I was about to.
Okay.
The reason is I apologize, I don't have the language precise, but we'd like to go into executive session to discuss possible employment, in our case with consultants.
And if I could either suggest or propose that there's also a question in executive session that might involve potential litigation that I'd like to discuss one more time.
Okay, then we would add that as well. So, motion to go into executive session for
So
issues
moved.
related to litigation and possible employment. Do we have a second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so, Christina, if you have something you want me to sign, is the other room available to us? Because it might be easier while you guys are cleaning up in here.
I'm willing to leave you have this big room.
Yeah, but Christina's got a bunch of stuff to clean up in here too, so.
Yes, this is just the,
So,
resolution.
I'll-
And then I have to stamp this. You can do it another day if you'd like
I can come by tomorrow.
to. Okay.
I will, oh, right. I apologize. We are having a meeting tomorrow to set the agenda for the 5th.
Right.
It's my meeting.
Is that your meeting?
Well, I mean,
Are you
I
able
think
to
you're
attend?
up.
I'm up.
That's what I wanted to know, because
I'm on deck.
Yep. Can you attend?
You strongly feel you need that meeting after you've gone through that.
Will there
yes.
be Martinelli's served?
Sure.
Just checking on
I got one more bottle.
Let's go do this.
Yeah.
Let's go do this.
I'm good, it's 1:30.
Yep, 1:30 here.
You
Won't
and I
take,
in here.
yeah, it won't take very long.
Good.
But no, because Christina will actually get stuff in
I
writing.
think we were actually done before Rich even got up the stairs last time.
Yeah. I remember. Well, you guys thought it was 1 or something.
And we started when he was at the bottom of the stairs.
Well, then I'll take my time.
Turn it off. Mike.
It's like, article is
No further action tonight.